Audiences love a gimmick. A film shot all in one take, a film in one location, mockumentary, a film set to real time, and a film without dialogue. A modern silent film is a gimmick that never truly caught on into a fad like many others. We never had a craze for it like the mockumentary or 3D in the mid to late 2000s. The no-dialogue film tends to quickly pop into the scene, like The Artist taking home 5 Oscars in 2011, and then never hearing from the filmmaker and most of the actors again. It's truly the most difficult gimmick to pull off, typically left to short films where the tediousness of not hearing any exposition won't outstay its welcome. Then we have No One Will Save You, a science fiction thriller starring Kaitlyn Dever as Bryn, a woman who lives alone in her family's farmhouse and is shunned by her community into silence for reasons unknown for now. One night, aliens invade her home, and Bryn does everything she can to fight for her life against this tenacious foe. The first 15 minutes of No One Will Save You had me hooked. I completely understood all of the positive reception coming from social media. The film was tense, and by the time the home invasion happens, the audience's ears have been tuned to listen to the environment rather than dialogue. Things were going great, and then something happened. The tension disappeared. Suddenly, we were left with a creature feature, where the design of the alien was at the forefront and bathed in moonlight. The aliens, modeled after the classic gray look from the 1950s, are given time for world building. We learn about their abilities, how they speak, their movements, things that would work in a film about making contact with a new species. But this is supposed to be a home invasion thriller. We don't want to learn about the villain. The more we learn, the less we fear. The director, Brian Duffield, is biting off far more than he can chew or manage when it comes to pushing the thematic boundaries of this kind of film. What's so unfortunate is that, at its core, Duffield already has a strong idea, but he's too ambitious, and he trips himself fairly quick. Even the no-dialogue gimmick is stretched too thin. This idea would have worked in the solitude of the farmhouse alone, where Duffield would have had a 1-2 gimmick punch with a no-dialogue chamber piece. But after the first invasion scene, Bryn makes her way into town, where she is confronted by 2 other characters who hate her for still then unknown reasons. Seeing 3 people in a scene unable to speak to each other reminded me of a Guy Maddin film called The Green Fog, where all dialogue is removed from a classic scene in Hitchcock's Vertigo for humor. There was no tension or much of anything in this scene, just 3 people with nothing on the tip of their tongue, stopping themselves from saying anything that could help this movie be something better. Another misstep in the no-dialogue gimmick was having the sound design focus on the main character's breathing. While this would have been fine in the more tense sequences, the entire film is filled with our main character grunting, sighing, and vocalizing every time she moves. After a few minutes, this becomes almost silly. As you remember, people talk to themselves when they're alone. They fill the void of the silence around them any way they can. The film's visual effects are strong, and for all their annoying qualities, the aliens are fun to look at. But again, I don't want it to be fun to look at these creatures. In a story like this, I want to be afraid of them. A positive aspect of the film that deserves to be noted is the willingness of the filmmakers to allow their main character to be scuffed up by the antagonist. A moment where Bryn is hit with her front door as she's trying to escape was surprisingly brutal. One can't help but want this aspect to be pushed further, but there are limits to what can be shown in a PG-13 film, and for what it's worth, it at least brought out a reaction in me. I think it is important to point out when a film takes a risk or attempts something new, but it's also necessary to point out when the risk does not pay off, lest someone feels inclined to repeat the same mistakes made previously. It's not enough to merely attempt. One must succeed, and this film sputters. No One Will Save You was released on Hulu, but even the theater experience wouldn't help anything. The issues are sewn into the core of this film. I can't say it wasn't a valiant try, but, like the characters, there's not much more I could say anyway.